Hello, guys. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
All right, good. Yeah, we'll wait for people because I know I changed the time, so like we'll probably have to wait a bit for more people to join. Yeah, so sorry to change the time. I had some stuff I need to do tomorrow, so sorry about that. Anyways, I can always upload the recording, and if you missed the meeting, I can upload the recording. You can watch it. Okay, so I guess I'll just start the class because I know a lot of people probably didn't see the announcement, but I'll post the class recording. So if anyone's late, they can always just come back and watch it later. And yeah. All right. Okay, so today's announcements. Good job on the midterm, guys, last week. Everyone did pretty well, and the scores were pretty good. So I'm not too worried about you guys. Only 3 more chapters, so we'll have a class today. We'll have a class next week, and then one more class, and then that'll be the end of what I have to teach for this level. And it'll also be the end of the term because that'll be winter break. So after that, you don't have to. So it's not like you will have to worry about the class over winter break. Um, so make sure you do your homework. I'm gonna upload homework tonight or after this class, and then people who watch the recording, if you're watching the recording right now, finish watching the recording and um, do the homework after. I'll be posting it on Google Classroom. And here's a cute kitten for you guys, in case anyone wanted to look at a cute kitten. Okay, so today's lesson is about intervals, not interviews. I misspoke. This is Unit 6, obviously, and this is Unit 8, up to Unit 8. So, yep, like I said before, only 3 more lessons. And we're going to talk about perfect, major, and minor intervals. Now, some of you may already be familiar with this, as always, but um, there are 3 types of intervals that we're generally going to talk about, and they're going to be between 2 notes, obviously. Now, perfect intervals above the tonic of a major scale are a unison, a fourth, a fifth, and an octave. So what this means is if you have like a C, for example, you're going to take the major scale, and the intervals above the C on the tonic of the major scale are unison, as you see here, unison, perfect first, which is basically C and C, so like they're the same note. So that will always be perfect. A perfect fourth, which is basically the fourth note above C. So if we're looking at the note C, yeah, for anyone who's joining late right now, don't worry about it. I will upload this recording later. And then, yeah, for people who are joining late, I'm going to upload this recording on Google Classroom. So you haven't missed anything yet. Okay, back to what I was saying. Perfect first, which is a unison, is basically the same note. And the perfect fourth is 4 notes above on the major scale. So if we're thinking about the major scale, we're looking at the note C. On C major, the fourth note is going to be F. So a perfect fourth above C would be F natural, obviously. And then a perfect fifth would be G, because that's the fifth note of the C major scale. And a perfect eighth, or an octave, would be obviously 8 notes above C is C itself. So octaves are perfect eighths. And then notice that the perfect intervals correspond with the tonic, subdominant, and dominant pitches above a tonic note. And as we talked about before, tonic is the first note, subdominant is the fourth note, dominant is the fifth note of a scale, and then tonic note is the eighth note of a scale or first note. So like they're the same thing. And these pitches have already been identified as important scale degrees in music based on major and minor scales. That's not really a technical term or technical fact. It's just these pitches are pretty important. A lot of times when you're ending a song or you're making a chord, you're going to be using fourths, fifths, etc. Okay, so is everyone good with perfect intervals? All you have to remember is 1, 4, 5, 8. That's basically all you need to remember. Can you guys unmute and like let me know if you're good with these? Or just type in chat. Yes? All right. Okay, so quick recap. All we need to know is that the first note, the fourth note, and the fifth note, and the eighth note of the scales above any note in the major scale of that note are perfect intervals. And we'll learn more about what perfect intervals mean as this lesson progresses. All right, so the remaining intervals above the tonic in a major scale are major intervals. So the major intervals, as you can see here, are going to be this major second, major third, major sixth, and major seventh. So we're looking back at the C major scale. Let's say we're picking an interval and the bottom note of the interval is C. So obviously we're going to have to need the C major scale to figure out what the intervals are. Now, if it's a perfect first, you can see it's C and C. If it's a major second, it's just D and C. And you know that the second note of a C major scale is going to be D natural. And the major third is going to be the third note of the scale, which is in this case would be E natural. And we already went over perfect fourth and fifth. And the major sixth would just be the sixth note of the C major scale, which would be A natural. And the major seventh would be B natural. So you can kind of see the pattern emerging. If you're going to try to find a major or a perfect interval, you just need to find the note and then find which note the interval, you just count up the numbers of the interval onto the major scale. Is everyone good with this? Do you guys all understand, or are there any questions? All right, no questions? Let's go. All right, minor intervals. So this is the third type of interval we're going to be talking about. And they're created by lowering the upper note of a major interval by half step. So some people might imagine that in order to find a minor interval, you need to just look at the minor scale, but that isn't true. What we are actually doing is look at the major intervals and then lowering them by half step. Because let's take a look at the example here. And obviously only seconds, thirds, sixths, and sevenths may become minor because the other ones, 1, 4, 5, and 8 are perfect. And perfect intervals, you can't change them to minor. Or you could, but like they don't exist in classical music, at least. So just don't break the rules like that. In terms of music theory, at least. Of course, you can write a song with perfect interval decreased by a half step or something. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just in terms of music theory, when we're looking at intervals, there's only perfect intervals are always 1, 4, 5, 8, and you don't change them. And then major and minor intervals are 2, 3, 6, and 7, and you can lower them by a half step to make a major into a minor. All right, so let's take a look at the example, and you'll see why you can't just count the minor scale. So here's a major second, right? C and D natural. It's basically a whole step. And then to make that a minor second, you lower it by a half step. So you have C and D flat. Now this is basically a half step or semitone. But if you think about it in the minor scale, the first note of the minor scale is a whole step up. If you're looking at C minor, for example, you're not going to go from C to D flat. You're going from C to D natural. So you don't just take it out of the minor scale. So that's just a warning, I guess. Don't like make the assumption that in order to find a minor interval, you're just taking it out of the minor scale. The truth is that you're going to look at the major and decrease it by a half step. All right, so let's look at the rest of the examples. You see we have a major third here, C and E natural. And then in order to make it a minor third, you're just going to lower it by a half step, so C and E flat. And then major sixth, you have C and A natural, and lower by a half step, it becomes a minor sixth. So you have C and A flat. And then a major seventh and a minor seventh, you can see it's just lowering the top note by a half step. I don't have my piano with me. I'm not near my piano right now, so I can't play these. But you can, if you have a piano at home or something, you can try it out later. We're not going to sing them either, but is everyone good with how to make a minor interval or what constitutes a minor interval? Any questions? Okay, no questions. Good. So quick recap of everything. 1, 4, 5, and 8 are perfect intervals. You can't change them in music theory, at least. And those, you just take it on the major scale and find the fourth note, the fifth note, the eighth note, or the first note, and those will be perfect intervals. Then we have major intervals, which are the other ones, which is 2, 3, 6, and 7th, seconds, thirds, sixth, and sevenths, if you want to say it that way. Those ones, you can change them by lowering them a half step and they'll become minor. minor intervals. All right, so let's do some practice, guys. I think I have participant annotation. Okay, yeah, it's enabled, so you guys can draw on the screen like you really like to do. And we're gonna name the size of this interval. So we have, notice that's on a bass clef, just might be trying to trick you, it's on the bass clef. And we have a G and a B flat. So who can tell me what the size of this interval is? So size, you just need to count the amount of notes between them. All right, nobody wants to draw on the screen? Oh, we have a chat. Yeah, it's a third. You can see you have 1 note, 2 note, 3 notes. So there's a third. So we're gonna write 3 here. And the bottom note is the first note of the G major scale. Obviously, it's just G, so oops. I'll write an uppercase G, so it's G major. Okay, so we have G, the bottom note is G. And then the upper note, does the upper note belong to the major scale or has it been lowered by a half step? So obviously this isn't a perfect interval because threes are the ones that you can change. And let's count if it's in the major scale. So the first note of the G major scale is going to be G, the second note is A, the third note is B natural because the half step in a major scale is between the third and fourth note, not the second and third. So the first 3 notes are all, they have 2 whole steps between them. So the third note of the G major scale in this case would be B natural. So this is lowered by half step. You can see it's been lowered. I'll just write lowered for the people who are going to watch the recording. So it's been lowered by half step. Sorry for my bad handwriting. Because it's B flat, obviously. So it's lowered by half step. And that's going to make the size and quality of this interval a minor. Usually you can just write min, stands for minor, and then minor third. Again, sorry for my bad handwriting. That's supposed to say minor third. I can type it here. All right, I'll keep typing it so my handwriting isn't bad. Someone actually in the class already answered minor third, so whoever that was, good job. All right, let's name the size of this interval. Now we see it's in treble clef. Let's just work through it together again. All right, so we have treble clef, and the bottom note is A natural. And the top note is F natural. So who can count the amount of notes between them? This is just basic counting. Name the size. Anyone want to type in chat or unmute or something?
A sixth.
Yeah, let's do it. So A, B, C, D, E, F. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. So you are absolutely correct. There are 6 notes, so the size of the interval is going to be 6. Or you can write sixth. Or 6. 6 would be fine too, but they don't ask this on the test. They're usually going to ask size and quality. So the bottom note is the first note of which major scale? Obviously, the bottom note is A, so it's going to be the first note of the A major scale. Then the upper note. We want to look at the upper note and does it belong to the scale or not? So let's look at the A major scale again. Just imagine it in your head. Let's count up. So we have A, and then B, and then C sharp, and then D, E, F sharp, G sharp, and A. So look at the letter names. F, this is F natural, and the letter name in the scale would be F sharp. Like the note with the same letter name would be F sharp. Because F sharp is part of the A major scale. So F natural is not part of the A major scale, therefore, and we're going to say it has been lowered by a half step. And then the size and quality of this thing, since it's not perfect, it's a sixth. So you don't even need to check if it belongs to a major scale or not. It's a sixth, and we know it's major. We know that the major interval would be F sharp, and then now we see that this has been lowered by a half step, so that will make a minor sixth. All right, does this make sense to everyone? Does everyone understand how we've done this? like how we came to the conclusion that this was a minor sixth, this was a minor third. All right, someone on mute or something, just let me know so I can move on.
No questions.
All right, thank you. All right, so this makes sense. Again, if you're at home and watching the recording later, just you can always email me if you have questions or put a comment on a Google Classroom post or something. All right, so those were the answers. All right, let's do some more practice. This picture got a little bit cropped, but you can see it's a treble clef. So what does this look like to you guys? We're not gonna work through it with all those steps again. We're just gonna try to jump to the conclusion. So what do you guys think the interval of this is? I need someone to participate. So if you could, you can type in chat too if you don't want to talk. All right. The first answer I got was minor third, or major third actually. So let's see. We can do it together, like we do with the steps before. The size of this interval is going to be 1, 2, 3. Obviously, we have 1 note, 2 notes, 3 notes, and we're gonna look at the major scale. So the first note is D. This is D. Obviously, in the treble clef, this is D. And we're gonna look at this one as F. So let's see, does F belong to the D major scale? Now, if we remember the key signature of the D major scale, it has F sharp and C sharp. So we can count up, or we can just count up if you don't want to memorize key signatures. If you want to memorize key signatures, remember the circle of fifths. But if you want to just count up the scale, that's fine too. The first note is going to be a whole step, which is going to go from D natural to E natural. And the second note's also going to be a whole step. So that'll go from E natural to F sharp. So the D major scale has an F sharp in it, and this is an F natural. So we're going to know that this has been decreased by a half step. And therefore, since it's a third, it's going to be a minor third. So I think I had 2 answers. One was major third, and one was minor third. So major third would be close, but like it's not really the right answer because it's a completely different sounding interval as well. So just make sure you count once you get the number, just count the number. All right, so there's minor third. Now let's do this one. This one should be real easy because we went over it in the beginning of class.
A major third.
Yep, major third. Right off the bat, good job. We can go over how we got the answer, so we start at C major scale. We're going to look at 1, 2, 3 notes up. This is E. Now, does E belong to the C major scale? Well, the first note of the C major scale is a half step up. So it's going to go from C to D, and then it's going to go another half step. So it's going to go from D to E. So, I mean, I said half step. I think I said half step. I meant whole step. The first two notes have a whole step between them, and the second and third note have a whole step between them in major scale. So we're going up a half step. I mean whole step. We're going up a whole step, then we go up another whole step, and that will bring us to E. So yes, E is indeed part of the C major scale. So then we know this is a major third. So good job, whoever got that. All right, now this one. We went over this as well, but we've been doing a lot of thirds. Now let's do something else.
A perfect fifth.
Yeah, good job. This is a perfect fifth. So we start out at C and then we go up. You see it's a fifth here. So you actually, at this level of music theory, if you see it's a fifth or first or fourth, like you can just straight up say it's a perfect fifth. But it's always good to verify so we can count up the notes again. First 2 notes have a whole step between them. Second and third note has a whole step between them. Third and fourth note have a whole step between them. So that will bring us to F natural. And then from F natural to G is another whole step, which is indeed part of the major scale. So we check that G is part of the C major scale. So we know it's a perfect fifth. Because the perfect intervals are always part of the major scale as well. That's not to say they're not part of the minor scale, but it's easier to count the major scale anyways. Okay, so here's a little bit of a trickier one. Who can tell me what this interval is? Obviously, it's just simply a half step. All right, we were participating well, so let's keep that going. Minor second, yep, good job. So we know a major second is obviously just a whole step, which would be from C to D, because that's the C to D is a whole step, and that's the first note of a major scale. So major second is just a whole step, and then decrease that by a half step. It's going to be a half step. C to D natural. C to D flat is a half step, and that makes it a minor second. Okay, so for whoever's joining class right now, don't worry that you're late. I'm going to post this recording. So for the people who are watching it, there's going to be people who watch it at home later who couldn't attend the class today. But if you're late as well, you can just watch up to where you joined the class from. All right, so this is going to be a minor second. Now, let's look at it in the context of a piece. Who can tell me what this interval is? We have B flat. Make sure you pay attention to key signature. We have B flat and we have E flat. What do you guys think this is? Yeah, perfect fourth. Good job. So let's count it up again and just keep going over this, and because this is an important exercise to do. We have B flat, and we know obviously B flat is the first note of the B flat major scale. Now, if you know your key signature, you can immediately find out if E flat's part of the scale, but counting up is just as valid as well. So B flat, we know the first step of a major scale is a whole step, so we're going to count up one. That's going to go to C natural. The second step is also going to be a whole step, so we're going to count up another whole step, which will bring us to D natural. And then between the third and fourth notes of any major scale is a half step. So the next note is going to be a half step up, which will bring us to E flat. And so that's going to be 4 notes for so the size of the interval is 4, and we know that everything that is 4 is a perfect fourth. So this is going to be a perfect fourth. If you like didn't feel like counting, or you're running out of time on the test or something, you can just count up 1, 2, 3, 4, and you see it's a fourth. So you can assume it's a perfect fourth. Although, of course, it's always better to check the intervals. All right, next one. This is from E flat to G. What do you guys think this interval is? All right, major third, that sounds about right. Let's count it up. So we start at E flat. We know that the scale is going to be E flat major. Of course, again, if you know the E flat major scale, you can just straight up do the problem already, but you can count up to check as well. So let's count. E flat, the first note is going to be a whole step. That's going to bring us to F natural. And then F natural to G is another whole step. And that does match the intervals of the major scales. So yes, G natural matches the note that would be in the E flat major scale. So yes, this is going to be a major third. It would be a minor third, of course, if it was decreased by a half step. So that'd be G. If it was F sharp, it would be a minor third, or G flat. All right, let's do this one. This one goes from G to B flat. What does that look like to you guys?
A major third?
Major third is close, but let's look again. This is B flat. Remember, we have B flat in the key signature. Now in the G major scale, if you memorize the key signature, you'll know that the G major scale only has one sharp, which is F sharp. So everything else is natural. So B natural is the note that's going to be part of the G major scale. So actually, B flat is lowered by a half step. So it's going to be a minor third. Does anyone understand why it's a minor third?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. We'll count it up again. So we can see that we start with the first note of the scale, which is going to be G. And then, so let's look at the G major scale. We have G, and then it goes to A, and then it goes to B, and then C, D, E, F sharp, and then back to G. So in the major scale of G, the notes, the note B natural is part of the G major scale. So this note here is a B flat. And we've already checked the size of the interval, which is third. And we know that third is either major or minor. So then now that we know it's major minor, we have to check if it is part of the scale. And we just checked that B flat is not part of the G major scale, and it's been lowered by a half step. So since it's been lowered by a half step, we know it's a minor third. Since it's not part of the major scale, it's lowered by a half step. All right, hopefully that makes sense. All right, last one in this exercise. We're going to look at E flat and F. F natural, of course. What do you guys think this interval is?
Major second.
Yeah, major second. So we talked about this before, but a major second is basically going to be a whole step, since that's the first note of a major scale. And the second note, I meant the first note up on a major scale, of course. Basically, when you have a major scale and you go one note up, of course, the whole step is going to be part of the major scale. So yes, because the second, third, sixth, and seventh notes are major or minor, you know that it's going to be major or minor, and then you check that the whole step is yes, a whole step is part of a major scale. So this is going to be major second. Is everyone good with what we did on this page? Are there any questions?
No questions.
All right. Let's just erase this stuff. All right, by the way, this is a typo. I just realized this is perfect fifth right here. Should be perfect fourth. So if you're watching the recording right now, guys, this is perfect fourth. All right, so here's just a diagram to help you visualize what the intervals really are. We're not gonna, right now, let's ignore diminished and augmented. These diminished and augmented, you can completely ignore them, but I just put them on here for anyone who's really interested in the other types of intervals. And these are some of the diminished and augmented intervals, like I was talking about before. You can decrease a half step or increase a half step from a perfect. And that's when you'll get augmented and stuff. And some of the chords actually repeat. But for now, let's just pay attention to major, minor, and perfect. So you can see that on the first row we have perfect, because as I said before, a first, like an interval of a note that is itself, is always going to be perfect in terms of this level of music theory. So perfect first is going to be the same note repeated. Perfect fourth is going to be 4 notes above the note. Perfect fifth is going to be 5 notes. And then an octave is the same note repeated, but is an octave above, obviously. So perfect eighth is also a perfect interval. Now this should really help you visualize what it looks like to have a major and minor interval. When you're on the major scale, like you have C and D, and then if you decrease it by a half step, it becomes minor. You can see it's going from D to D flat, E to D flat, A to A flat, B to B flat. So I hope this, if you have time right now, if you're watching the video, you can screenshot this chart, or you can maybe only even screenshot the middle 3 columns. If you're in the lesson right now, you can also screenshot it right now. And I'll post the class slides, so don't worry about that. All right, is everyone good with this? Just a helpful way, I think, might help someone to understand the difference between major and minor.
I understand.
All right. All right, so today's lesson, of course, was pretty short. It wasn't intentionally short. It was just intervals. There's not really much we have to learn about here in terms of RCM level 4. But I'll ask again, are there any questions before we end the class?
No.
All right, so I hope you have a good weekend, guys. I'm really sorry I had to change the time. But if you're watching the recording, right now, make sure you do your homework after this. The homework will be on Google Classroom. For you guys who are in class right now, I'll post the homework in a few minutes. So yeah, have a good day, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
See you guys.